Hey everyone, this is alexusadays and we are in JavaScript functions. So this is module 11 and almost the last video. The next one will be test framework and we will do some of the testing based on all of the data, all of the things that we covered. Okay, so JavaScript functions. A function in JavaScript is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. A function is defined once and can be executed or called any number of times. Functions can take inputs, call parameters, process them, and return an output. There are several ways to define a function in JavaScript. The most common method is the function declaration. You type out function word, then you give a name of a function. For example, here is greet. Then you open parentheses. If you want to provide any parameters, you put them into the parentheses. And after that, within the curly braces, you have a code block that has been executed. To execute the function you've defined, you call it by its name, follow the parentheses. For example, I declared function greet and then I want to call it. I'll just have to have the function name with parentheses to get it called. Functions can take parameters which are like placeholders for the values you pass to the function when you call it. These values are called arguments. Functions can return values back to the caller using the return statement. Once the return statement is executed, the function stops running and returns the specified value. Functions in JavaScript can be anonymous. They don't need a name. You can store it in a variable. So let's go into the code and try this out. Okay, so let's start with creating a new file. So 11.js underscore functions.js. All right, so let's start with a simple function declaration. And we've used some of that before, so some things might be familiar to you already. So let's start with word function, and then we're going to give a name to that function. So let's say greet. Then we open parentheses, and then we will have curly braces. Now, within the curly braces, we're going to provide the code that we want to execute. So when this function is called, we're going to execute console logged with a message, hello world. All right, perfect. So you see we did not provide any parameters here. We're not passing anything into the function. All that is going to happen when I call this function, this line of code will get executed. And I can call it multiple times. So if I'll call greet, say 2 times or 3 times, right? This message will be printed out 3 times. So let's go ahead and try it. Node, what happened here? So let's try it. Node and 11 tab. Run it, and you can see the function is executed 3 times, and I have hello world printed out 3 times. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to remove the colon of the function. Next one, let's have an example of a function with parameters, right? So a function with parameters. So we're going to have a function, and let's call it hello. In here, we will provide some value, right? So let's say we're going to have name as a variable that's going to be passed along. This is just a placeholder, right? Now our console message, let's update it to, let's use backtick, hello, and then we will provide the name variable inside. So okay, so now it will print out hello name, and the name is a parameter that I'm going to pass along, right? So let's say hello, and here I'm going to say Alex, right? And clear it out, run it, and here we go. So hello Alex. There are some proper names for the values that have been passed along. So when a function is declared, this is a parameter. So name is a parameter during the declaration right here. But when function is called, this value that we provide is actually called argument. Okay, let's comment out calling of the function. And the next one is anonymous function. When you have an anonymous function, you then actually provide the name of the function. So you want to have it in the variable. So let's say let, and let's call it anonymous underscore function. Here we have let anonymous function. So we have variable, and now without a name, we can just say function. And if we want, we can pass parameter or have no parameter. Let's have it print something. So console.log, I am anonymous. All right, great. Now, and then all you need to do is provide the variable with parentheses to call it. Let's run it, and it is being called. So there's no name, that's why it's called anonymous, right? And we stored it here in the variable, and it's called through the variable name, right? Okay, now let's go with the next example, and that would be an arrow function. Arrow function. So it's a newer syntax. You kind of have to get used to it a little bit, but there is a difference when you have an arrow function. So how I like to have an arrow function, I still use curly braces for it, but there's also a way not to use curly braces. Okay. So let's have an example. Let's say we're going to have a function named let's say hello, right? Then we provide equal, then we provide parentheses. So within parentheses we can have values, and then we have this arrow symbol and curly braces. So this is essentially our arrow function, and I can say here console log hello, I am arrow function, right? And now we have to call it. So let's say hello by calling it here. So I'm going to comment out the anonymous function, and let's run it. And hello, I am arrow function. So this is a way when you actually use parentheses. There is another way, a shorter way. So let's say I was actually doing some operations here. So let's say we're going to be doing addition, right? So this function is going to add two numbers together. So I will have A and B, and I will return as a result of the function A plus B. So what needs to happen here, I need to provide some values, right? So say add, and then I'll provide 2 and 3. Let's run it. Okay, so it's not returning anything because we need to actually print it out. It did return, but there's nothing being printed out. So you have to place it in a console log or store it, the output, into a variable and then print it, right? But we're going to go and directly print it out in the console log. Now let me clear it out and run it again. Okay, we have a value that's come back. This is 5. So this is our arrow function where you actually use curly braces like in the normal function, and you have to provide return. But there is even a shorter way to do it. So if you remove the curly braces, and you also can remove return, and you just place it on one line like that, that's like even shorter way. This is still a valid arrow function, and I can run it. You see it works. I can provide like 3 and 3 and run it. Still works as expected. Okay, so I'm gonna comment everything out, and now actually let's delete it for now. Let's go and create a set of function that will imitate a calculator, and we might use it later on, right? So let's create a calculator. All right, here we go. So the first one we're going to do, let's do an add function. So here we're going to just have a regular declaration. So we're going to say function, and we're going to name it add, and it accepts A and B. And here in curly braces, we're going to return A plus B. All right, so this is normal function declaration with a name. And now next one, let's do an arrow function with curly braces. So I'm gonna say let subtract, and that's gonna be equal again a b provided within the parentheses. Now I do arrow function with curly braces, and I return a minus b. Okay, so that is the second function that will be available in our calculator. Now let's do the third one, and let's do multiply, but we're gonna do it all in one line. So let multiply, and we use an arrow function here, right? So again, we're expecting two values, and we have placeholder a and b for them. And now here we simply have an arrow and then a multiplied by b. That's it. When you don't have curly braces, you don't have to provide return. Like, you can fit everything in one line. And let's have last one as like regular but anonymous function. So I'm gonna call it divide, and here we're gonna have function. It is expecting two values, so a and b, and then it's gonna return. So let's have a condition here. So you know you can't divide by 0. So we're gonna say if a is not equal, so exclamation mark 0, 0 is not equal to 0, and the code that's going to be executed here is return a divided by b, right? So that is if a is not equal to 0. But if it is equal to 0, we're going to have an else block that will say return, let's say cannot divide by 0. All right, so here's our calculator application, like really short, really simple. Now let's call some of this function. So I can say, let's do first as a console log, and we do add, let's do 10 and 5 here. Okay, clear it out. So this will go and run this function. So this line 17 will go and run function on line 2, and then it will return, the function will return a plus b, and then console log will actually print that result. So a and b here is 10 and 5, so total will get it 15 out, right? And here we have it. Now next one, let's just store a result first. So let's do subs result. So we have a variable here. Now instead of doing console log immediately, we're just going to store the function run in the variable, and then we're going to print it out. So here we're going to have subtract, and let's provide 10 and 9 here. So this is getting executed. As an outcome, we'll have 1 as a result. It will get stored in subs result, and then we can say console log and do subs result. Okay, let's run it. And we have 1 coming back. Great. I'll move this a little bit down so we have more visibility. The next one, we have multiply. So let's console.log and do multiply. So let's do 2 multiplied by 2, right? And next one, we have console.log. Let's do divide, and let's divide, let's say 3 by 3. And let's also check our if condition. So we know that we can't divide by 0. So actually, there's a little mistake here. So because we can divide 0, but we can't divide by 0, right? So we need to update this if block, and we need to have b here. So because the next, you're dividing by b, so b cannot be 0, right? So we updated the code a little bit, and let's say console.log. Let's do again divide, and then provide here 3, and next will be a 0. So we're going to go into the else block here. All right, so we have all our calculator functions being executed here. Let's run the code. Okay, so the first one is 15, great. The second one we stored in the variable and then printed out, it's 1. Then multiply 2 by 2 is 4, got it. Divide 3 by 3 is 1, got it. And the last one, we're trying to divide 3 by 0. Cannot divide by 0. Okay, perfect. So this is all on functions. In the next video, we're going to start creating some tests around this calculator, and we're going to use one of the testing frameworks just to have some understanding how you can actually do some testing around the values that are being returned. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. This was alexusadays. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.